to the Real Estate Roundtable. This is Steve Goldberg here on the premiere of Real Estate Roundtable on RETV. And I'm so excited to have with us Allyson Richards. Allyson, thanks a lot for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be a guest on here.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Allyson, I saw you on social media and I reached out to you because I think you have a unique niche in the real estate business. And instead of me trying to explain what it is, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about your business and what it is that you do?
Thank you, Stephen. Well, my business is a real estate transaction coordination. Basically, in a nutshell, we help realtors once they have an executed contract, guide them from contract to closing, making sure that all the compliance items are there in the contract, setting up that timeline, monitoring the lender, the title company, and all the moving parties in between to make sure we meet all our deadlines and get to that closing table on time.
That's great. And you're brought into the transaction by the buyer and the seller. How would somebody reach out to Allyson Richards to have them coordinate their transaction for them?
Our clients are all real estate agents. So real estate agents seek our services to help be a part of their team. That's our biggest role. Is we're a team member for our real estate agents. So along with their niche and their specialization, they bring us in to help coordinate because they get busy, they get wrapped up, and sometimes they miss things or they don't want to be out with a client and something's not being addressed. So they hire our services to make sure that everything is being run efficiently, so they can manage their businesses.
Gotcha. And if I'm a buyer or a seller of real estate, I would assume that I would want to ask my real estate agent if they have a transaction coordinator on the team. Is that something that a prospective buyer and seller should do? Or how would they go about making sure that someone with your skill set is going to be making sure their transaction is handled correctly?
A buyer or seller can ask their agent what their process is. So they can ask, are there any other team members that will be assisting you? Because we all know how busy you are. So they can ask to know what members of the team will be reaching out. Me personally, I do introduce myself to my agent's clients. Just so they know if they have any general questions, they can ask me, but negotiations and, sensitive matters, but general things, I'm here to help as well.
Awesome. And what I really want to get into, Allyson, because I think it's a big question a lot of prospective buyers and sellers have, is what are the important focal points of a real estate transaction? A lot of people just take that for granted. Talk a little bit about what it is that you make sure is being done correctly, and that when you're involved, the buyer and seller can rest easy knowing that you're making sure that those things are being done and being done accurately and timely.
Well, our biggest thing is making sure we have a fully executed and compliant contract. I do see that a lot in the real estate industry. Disclosures are missing, addenda are missing. We don't have fully executed contracts because initial is missing or signature is missing. And those things can be detrimental to a real estate contract. I've seen the pitfall of that where contract effective date was moved by an attorney because an initial was missing. Had I have been a part of that transaction, we would have had a fully executed contract and everybody would know the correct deadlines and we would move smoothly instead of getting a surprise notice from the attorney. Well, we're changing the effective date of this contract. Those are never fun phone calls to have.
Right, I gotcha. And it's great that you're there to make sure that those things are being done.
Correct.
Let me ask you, as far as the real estate climate right now, so to speak, as someone that's involved in all aspects of the transaction, what are you seeing today in the real estate market overall?
Well, we did have, when the interest rates started skyrocketing, we did have quite a few slow months at the end of last year, but it's also winter. So we're used to slower, but it really got slow. Right now, I feel that it's picking up. I think a lot of buyers are realizing you've got to get in and play the game. You can't keep waiting for real estate to crash, which it's not 2008. I'm sorry. I don't feel that's going to happen again.
I agree.
It's unfortunate how, the interest rates and the rise in properties, but at some point you have to stop wishing on a dream and realize, what can I afford that's right for my family? Let me make that decision for us now. The future is still there. So if you buy a property now that doesn't necessarily meet your needs because you had to go in a lower price point, you've got 5-10 years of building equity. You can move on to the next one, but the The goal is to get in there, and it's not changing. We're not going back to 2 and 3% interest rates. You've got to try and do what you can now. And like a lot of lenders are saying, let's see where it goes. You can always refinance if when they drop, there's that possibility. But the house you're looking at is not going to wait for you for another year. Family's going to be stuck in a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment instead of getting into your own home and building that equity and things like that and paying yourself as a landlord.
Gotcha. Great information there. A big thing that we're hearing from a lot of people right now is concerns with the interest rates and also with the tightening of lending parameters.
Yes.
I actually read this morning in the Wall Street Journal how the banks are being very open about the fact that they're tightening the screw, so to speak, a little bit. As someone in your perspective, which I love because you're kind of an overview of the transaction, what are you thinking as far as lenders? And if you were a borrower or one of your prospective borrowers came to you, was asking you what you felt was important for them to have the best shot to get approved at the best rate, what's some advice you would probably give them?
My advice for anyone trying to buy a home is you've got to put yourself in the best position at all times. No one is throwing money at you. So if there is a credit situation or you can't prove your income, now may not be the time. You don't want to pay higher than normal interest rates because you're not an ideal candidate for a lender. So if the average rates are 6.5, 7 right now, do you really want to pay 9% right now? Can you afford that? What's that going to put you in? But if you have a conversation with the right lender and your right agent, they'll guide you to a path to getting things cleared up so you are in the best position to buy a home. I don't want to deter anybody, but if you're in a real extreme situation where it's really not looking good for you, it's okay to wait the year or two to put yourself out there. Because like you said, the restrictions are coming, they are here, and they're not going to be even playing ground for everybody. They really want, buyers that have the reserves, buyers that have the income, those are still, as always, preferential. And also that year or two can give somebody a chance to come up with a larger down payment, which lenders would like as well, if you can do that.
Sure. And what kind of down payments are you seeing being asked for as far as a percentage basis?
I'm still seeing with the FHAs, we still do quite a few FHAs, which of 3.5%. I'm not seeing as large down payments as I was seeing last year when the whole bubble was growing. Now I'm actually seeing more of the 5-10% range. I am seeing that now, but those are also people with higher credit scores, so they're not dropping down to 40% because that's what they need to get the house of their dream. So right, it really depends on your situation. If you've got the lower score, be prepared to put out 10 to 20 unless it's the FHA loan, which it's going to be a 3.5%.
Right. And Allyson, you bring up FHA loans. Talk real quickly about what an FHA loan is. A lot of people really get confused that they think FHA is a lender. Okay. We have a lot of people when they write in questions, even in our early stage of RET, me having a little bit of a background in finance, it's often kind of a confusing area. Just real quick, explain an FHA loan, that they're basically behind the loan and how that works a little bit for our viewers.
Right. FHA and VA are two types of government-backed loans, and they have a specific set of guidelines for their buyers. Those that don't qualify for conventional loans would typically require higher scores and better down payments because you get the better interest rate. But FHA is able to help those that come in with a lower credit scores. And I'm not going to quote the exact score because I'm not a lender, but if you have a lower score or a special situation where you just need a little bit of help to, that won't be as ideal for a conventional, there's the FHA, which can help you get into a home. The rates tend to be a little bit higher, but again, it's an opportunity to still own your home.
Gotcha. Great information. And what I also just want to kind of wrap up on here, Allyson, is talk a little bit about the benefits you bring. I know we talked at the beginning about what you do, which I think is just a great service because you need somebody that's kind of overwatching the landscape, making sure docs get signed, making sure time deadlines are met, appraisals are completed. So talk about if Allyson Richards is involved in your real estate transaction, what you can at least rest easy knowing is being done.
Well, I like to say my company offers a plug and play service. So when you hire us, my contract is off to Allyson and she's going to get the ball rolling. She's going to make sure it's compliant. She's going to set up the timeline. Everybody's going to know the timeline. I'm going to be a part of point of contact on your team. So monitoring that begin to end process. And my agents honestly don't have to jump in unless there's a serious problem. They know that she's going to make sure application's done, appraisal is done, loan approval is in on time, surveys are done, title commitment is done. And that's a lot to take off an agent's plate. A lot don't have the time to monitor emails 24/7 a day. They are busy moving on to their next client or, servicing, building their marketing. And they know that once their contract is with me, it's going to be handled in a safe and secure manner, and we're going to have a very nice and smooth day.
That is something I know whenever I talk to people that have gone through buying or selling a house, the thing they dread the most is going through the transaction, right?
Yes.
All the things that you're handling are being done, and you seem to take that worry away, which is a great service.
Exactly.
Awesome. Allyson, tell everybody the best way to reach you.
The best way to reach me is at my email address, Allyson@erestc.com. My website is www.erestc.com. Reach out if you have any questions. I would love to answer them.
Allyson, thank you so much for being with us today. Again, this is Allyson Richards. She is a transaction coordinator, and look for her and reach out to her if you're in the middle of buying or selling a house. I think she'd be a big help to you. Allyson, thank you so much. You have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
You too. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks.